Hi, this is Joe Chambers. Welcome to Musicians Hall of Fame Backstage at the Vault Series. Today's story from the Vault features the great Atlanta music industry founder, Bill Lowery. Without Bill, the incredible industry that now flourishes in Atlanta would have never have happened. Bill did it from his heart, from his love of songwriters and songs, his ability to find raw talent and develop it, such as Joe South, Billy Joe Royal, the Classics Four, Ray Stevens, Jerry Reed. It was just incredible what he found in neighborhood kids who were just in the area. Hope you enjoy it. If you do, be sure to hit like, subscribe, and the notification bell so you don't miss any of our new content. And for those of you who can help, we now have a Patreon account. Once again, Bill Lowery.
Well, Bill Lowery was the godfather of Atlanta music. He was an amazing, amazing man, and we all miss him dearly. Bill was a disc jockey. He was big at Atlanta radio, WGST.
He had a double identity. He was Uncle Eb Brown.
And I developed this character called Uncle Eb Brown. I named him after Ebenezer Brown, and Ebenezer from Scrooge, and Brown after old Doc Brown. One of his lines was, "I'll be home for supper unless you're bad." And that was his sign-off on his show.
I had been listening to him a lot, but I never dreamed it was him.
And what made you decide you wanted to look up Bill Lowery?
Well, that was back when I was 13, and somebody just called Bill and told him they knew a boy that sung and picked, and so Bill decided to let me on, and
Did you already have songs you had written?
yeah, my mother and I used to write songs. So I got up some of those and went down to the studio, and I went up there and sang some songs for him, and he liked them,
Did he or somebody else coach you along and kind of help you tighten up your songs? And if so, how did he know how to do that?
Yeah, he did. He knew before anybody else did back in those days.
Bill was an unbelievably charismatic and person that you just loved when you first met him. He was everybody's best friend, and Bill loved songwriters.
I had the opportunity to break many phonograph records and make hits out of them from my morning show, The Bill Lowery Show. And I really loved music. I always did.
How did your dad get started in the publishing business?
Yeah, Bill Lowery started the company because he got cancer and was unable to get life insurance. And through his radio experience and having people such as Joe South and Ray Stevens and Jerry Reed on his radio show, a friend of his told him he should probably get into the music publishing business, which he did as a way to have money for his family, and was very successful. In 1956, his first hit was Bebop-A-Lula.
I won the BMI award that first year for Bebop-A-Lula. And I was in New York, and that was a big moment for me. The idea of winning a BMI award was really something. And I go down the aisle, and he says, as I go down the aisle and they're playing Bebop-A-Lula, she's my baby. And he says, "You can't do it in Atlanta. I tell you, you can't do it in Atlanta." And I had done it, and I was real thrilled over that.
And they followed that with another #1 record in 1957 called Young Love. He was very fortunate to have actually two people record that song. and it was a number one record by both artists. It's the only time in history of the Billboard charts that a song actually flip-flopped from 1 to 2 and 2 to 1 back and forth for two-week period, I believe it was.
How did the writers come?
Well, because of his radio shows in the early days, he was able to have people like Joe South and Billy Joe Royal, Tommy Rowe, Jerry Reed, and they were all young kids in school in Atlanta. And
Was Ray Stevens in that group too?
yes, his actual name was Ray Ragsdale.
But Ray is a genius.
Oh, Ray's brilliant. He is absolutely. I'm just thrilled to have known him all my life. So.
He and Chet Atkins were best of friends.
Sure, yes, and so was Jerry.
And
That
Jerry,
was one of
yes.
the things. Jerry later moved to Nashville and struck up with Chet, and they just became great writers and friends together. So.
Bill liked my songs, said, you come to Atlanta and I'll sign you as a writer. And I said, well, I want part of the publishing. And that was before they did that. You know, nobody had, it's like Acuff Rose at the time, never gave writers any publishing. But I was fortunate enough that I started off with Bill Lowery as a partner. And we started LaSalle Music, he and I and Paul Cochran. He was a businessman, but he was first and foremost a lover of songs. Oh yeah, and one of his big tricks was when we'd come in and we'd play him a song that he loved. He'd stand up and take his money out of his pocket and throw it on the floor and say, "That's a smash."
Isn't that great? That's what makes it fun.
It inspired me to go back and finish that song and make it better. You know, he was definitely every song we wrote, before we put it down, then we'd take it in and play it for him, and he'd have some comments sometimes, and he always wanted the song to have hope.
The fact that I liked songs that had hope and dreams and aspirations, because I think all of us want to hope and dream and aspire. And I think that is what makes for a successful music publisher.
Yeah, he helped me. You know, he really did. He, especially with lyrics and how to express a musical type of opinion, you know. And he knew how to get my attention. So,
How to get your attention?
well, he played my songs around for various people that were recording, and that fascinated me too, that he was making records with the local people.
The publishing company began at the studio.
Right. In the later years, we did build a studio so that our writers really would have a place to go do demos, and which we would then take the demos and try to pitch the songs to other artists and things like that. And just through blind luck, I guess you'd say, we were able to get some of these things actually recorded by the writers and artists that we had in our stable, and sign them to major label recording deals.
And he started that, he bought that old schoolhouse. And
How did Bill know how to build a studio?
he didn't. He got somebody. He went into partnership with Bob Richardson, who was the studio guy. It was. I think it was maybe the auditorium or the lunchroom in the old school. And it was right by a railroad track. We'd have to stop takes because the railroad, the train would come by and shake the building, and mess up a good take.
Was it like a wooden frame schoolhouse?
Oh yeah, the wooden frame schoolhouse. Yeah, it had quite a bit of room in it. I don't know what the square footage would be, but
Tall ceilings.
it had tall ceilings. Yes.
What year did y'all start the studio?
The first studio was probably started in around 60, 61. And that was, at the time, was, well, originally was the Lowery Studios, and then later became Master Sound. Dad was partners with a gentleman named Bob Richardson at that time, and we changed the name of our studio to Southern Tracks, which then moved to this present location on Claremont Road, and just had a tremendous history ever since with people such as Bruce Springsteen, Pearl Jam, Stone Temple Pilots, Green Day, the Black Crowes. And we also had a studio that we were involved in Doraville, where the Atlanta Rhythm section recorded. That was called Studio One, and Buddy Bowie was the operations manager and ran that operation for us and recorded many hits through there for the Dennis Shows and the Classics 4 and things like that. And the Atlanta Rhythm section was actually a studio band, and later came out and put their own records out, as we know, and had a very successful career themselves. We were very fortunate to have Tommy Rowe, who did Dizzy, Sweet Pea, and Hazel, and a lot of those songs were actually recorded over in Muscle Shoals as well. We had some dealings with Rick Hall, and Felton Jarvis did a lot of the production for us back in those days, and he liked to work out of Muscle Shoals, I think because it was close to Nashville, as well as Billy Joe Royal. Some of his stuff and Tommy's things a lot of those were recorded in Muscle Shoals.
And Joe South was a writer.
Joe was a writer and also an artist for us, and a lot of his things were done here as well as Muscle Shoals. We did do some recording over there with Joe as well in Muscle Shoals.
What was it like to have Hush and then have it just explode with Deep Purple?
Oh, I'm sure that Joe was just thrilled with that. We had had that song with Billy Joe and did pretty well, and then Deep Purple recorded it. And then here is the Mr. Joe South, so he can sit right here and tell you that. We're just talking about Hush.
How did the song Hush, it was such a huge record more than once, how did that come about?
Hush was a public domain religious anthem from the black singers of that day, you know.
So there was already a song with that kind of melody or those lyrics in it?
Yeah, hush, hush, I thought I heard him calling my name now.
You came up with a little guitar riff in the front,
Mm-hmm.
and so you took that and turned it to a girl, and it was just a monster. What did you think? Now Billy Joe had a really big record with it, but then you got covered by Deep Purple.
Yeah.
That had to have been incredible for you.
Yeah. It was really a big record. It was #1 for a couple of 3 weeks back in '70, I think it was.
Oh, without Bill, I wouldn't be sitting here. Without Bill, Joe South wouldn't be there. Bill Lowery was the impresario. I mean, he was the man, and he deserved to be the man. He loved. He was a businessman, but he was first and foremost a lover of songs.